Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Before we dive into today's crazy cheating story, I have a quick question for you. Have you ever been cheated on? Or do you know someone who has? Let me know in the comments. I love reading your stories and experiences. Alright, grab a snack, get comfortable, and enjoy the video. My name isn't really important for this story, but what is important is what I went through in 2024. This is the story of how my first love, my first boyfriend, my first everything, betrayed me with someone I never thought I could lose to, a Discord kitten. Yeah, I know how it sounds. Silly, funny even. But when you're in love with someone, and they do this to you, it's anything but funny. It breaks you in ways you didn't even know you could break. And I want to share my story, not just because I never got closure from him, but because I know there are people out there who've been through something similar. Maybe hearing what happened to me will make you feel less alone. We'll call him Kai. I met Kai in November of 2023. Back then, I thought he was the best thing that ever happened to me. He made me laugh, he made me feel safe, and for the first time in my life I felt like someone truly saw me. We were young, but we had that wild kind of love that makes you believe it's forever. I gave him everything, my trust, my heart, my loyalty. As the months went by, I imagined our one-year anniversary. I thought we were building something real, something that could last. But by September 2024, everything started to change. Kai's behavior became strange. He would get angry at the smallest things, things that didn't even make sense. Once, he saw an old picture on my phone. Nothing inappropriate, just something from before we even dated, and he completely lost it. Another time, he was furious because I talked to one of my band members about struggling with eating. He told me that I shouldn't share things like that it was attention-seeking. It got worse. Even when one of my friends helped me walk through a crowded hallway so we wouldn't be late to band class, Kai got mad. He made me feel like I couldn't do anything right. Every word, every action, every little thing seemed to annoy him. But here's the thing, I didn't see the red flags. I was too blinded by love. Kai was my first real relationship, my first kiss, my first, I love you. I thought all couples fight, that maybe he was just stressed or going through something at home. And to be fair, he did have problems at home. I excused his behavior. I told myself he's hurting. He needs me. I should be patient. My friends noticed before I did. They warned me that something was off. They told me I deserved better, that the way he spoke to me wasn't normal. But I brushed it off. I thought they just didn't understand our relationship. I thought we were different. Then came October. About a week or two before I found out the truth, Kai started becoming more distant. Not just angry, cold. He stopped texting me as much. He barely smiled when we were together. I told myself maybe school was stressing him out, or maybe his family issues were getting worse. I convinced myself it wasn't about me. But deep down, I had this gnawing feeling. That gut instinct you try to ignore because you're afraid of what it means. And on one Friday morning, the day of a big football game, I couldn't shake it anymore. Kai came over to my house that morning. I usually gave him rides to school since he had moved farther away, and he liked to hang out a bit before we left. When he got to my place, he seemed off, tired, detached. He said he wanted to take a nap before school. That's when the voice in my head whispered, "Check his phone." I know. Checking someone's phone is toxic, right? But let me explain. Kai and I used to be open about that stuff. We even agreed to delete a certain messaging app so there wouldn't be any secrets. But about a month earlier, I noticed he had downloaded it again. When I asked, he said it was just to text a friend. I believed him, or at least I wanted to. But that morning, while he was asleep on my bed, I couldn't resist the feeling anymore. My hands were shaking as I picked up his phone. I kept telling myself, you're just being paranoid. He loves you. You'll see. I opened the app, and what I found shattered me. There were messages, dozens of them, between Kai and a girl whose username I didn't recognize. She wasn't just some random friend. She was his Discord kitten. I froze as I scrolled. He had been sending her pictures, shirtless, fresh out of the shower. He called her pet names. They even had matching profile pictures. My heart sank when I saw it because it wasn't just flirting. It was intimacy. It was everything he should have been sharing with me. The worst part? She wasn't even in high school like us. She was taking college classes. I couldn't tell if she was older, maybe just a year or two. But she looked older than me. And I was already a year older than Kai. It made me feel small, like I could never compete. My chest felt tight. My stomach twisted. I wanted to scream, to wake him up and demand an explanation. But I didn't. Instead, I put his phone down, quietly, carefully, as if the weight of the truth might break it in half. That morning, in first period, I texted him just 3 words. "We're over." And that was it. At least that's what I thought. But little did I know. The story wasn't even close to being over. After I sent Kai that message, "We're over," I thought maybe I'd feel relief, like ripping off a Band-Aid. But instead, it felt like my chest had been hollowed out. I sat in first period staring at the wall, trying to process what I had just seen on his phone. My hands were trembling so hard I had to sit on them just to stop shaking. The bell rang, but I barely heard it. The whispers in my head were louder. He chose her over you. He didn't even care enough to hide it better. He was ready to risk it all for her. Was he even ever yours? I kept telling myself I did the right thing. I ended it. I didn't let him lie to me anymore. But when you've built your whole world around someone, it doesn't just crumble quietly. It crashes violently, and it takes parts of you with it. By the time the football game came around that night, I was in pieces. I remember sitting in the bleachers surrounded by cheering classmates, everyone's faces painted in school colors, the marching band playing loud, the lights blinding, but it all felt distant, like I wasn't really there. At one point, I broke down completely. I couldn't hold it together anymore. Tears streamed down my face as my chest heaved uncontrollably. A teacher noticed and had to pull me aside, talking to me gently, trying to ground me. I remember nodding, trying to breathe, but nothing made sense. How could Kai do this? How could someone who held my hand, who whispered promises, who looked me in the eyes and said, "I love you," turn around and give all of that to someone else? And not just someone else. A girl online, a Discord kitten. I kept replaying everything in my head. The way he had been getting distant, the anger over the smallest things, him re-downloading that app and brushing it off like it was nothing. All the times my friends warned me that something felt off. I realized the truth had been staring me in the face for weeks. I just didn't want to see it. But here's where I made a mistake. A mistake a lot of people make after betrayal. I didn't cut him off completely. Even after the breakup, I kept talking to him. I don't know why. Maybe part of me wanted answers. Maybe I hoped he'd apologize, that he'd realize he made the biggest mistake of his life and come back begging. Or maybe I was just scared to fully let go of the first person I ever loved. But Kai, he didn't react the way I hoped. Just a day after the breakup, he moved schools. It was like he couldn't get away from me fast enough. And within a week, he had a new girlfriend. When I heard that, it was like being stabbed all over again. I thought, did I mean nothing to him? Was I just a placeholder until he found someone new? My friends tried to comfort me, telling me it was a rebound, that he was just trying to cover up his guilt. But I couldn't stop thinking about how quickly he replaced me. It felt like I had wasted months of my life, pouring everything into someone who didn't even care enough to wait a week. The worst part was, I still talked to him during this. I told myself it was closure, that I needed to hear his side, that maybe he could explain. But his words were always cold, dismissive, almost like he enjoyed watching me hurt. And while he was with that new girlfriend, he kept acting like nothing happened. Like our relationship, our memories, our late-night talks, our laughter. All of it had been erased. I wish I could say I moved on quickly, that I realized my worth and left him behind. But heartbreak doesn't work that way. At night, I'd lie awake replaying every conversation, every kiss, every fight. I kept wondering, was she better than me? Was I not enough? But here's the thing. Kai's pattern didn't stop. After about 7 or 8 months, he broke up with that new girl. And just a week later, he was already with another. That's when it hit me. It wasn't about me. It wasn't even about the Discord kitten. It was about him. Kai wasn't looking for love. He was chasing attention, validation, excitement. He couldn't be alone. He needed someone new to make him feel wanted, no matter how much damage it caused. And when I looked back, I realized there had been a giant red flag from the very beginning. The day before Kai and I started dating, he had told me something that should have made me run. He said, "Yeah, I broke up with this girl today, but when I saw you, I knew you were the one." At the time, it sounded romantic, like fate, like he had been waiting for me all along. But now I see it for what it really was. A confession that I was just his next distraction. He didn't heal. He didn't take time for himself. He jumped from girl to girl, leaving a trail of broken hearts behind him. And I had been one of them. But here's the twist. Even after everything, even after the betrayal, even after the breakdown at the football game, Kai wasn't done with me. Because months later, when I thought I was finally moving on, he found a way to crawl back into my life. And what he said next changed everything. For a while after Kai jumped into his new relationship, I told myself I was done. I tried to move on, even though deep down I was still haunted by the way things ended. I focused on school, my band practices, and just being around friends who actually cared about me. And slowly, I started to feel human again. The nights of crying until my pillow was soaked became less frequent. The pit in my stomach that twisted every time I thought of him began to fade. I wasn't healed, but I was healing. But then Kai showed up again. Started small. A random text. Just his name popping up on my phone screen was enough to send my heart racing. It was like a ghost had walked back into my life. At first, he acted casual. "Hey, how are you? What have you been up to?" Like nothing had ever happened. Like he hadn't shattered me. I wanted to ignore him. God, I should have ignored him. But my heart wasn't as strong as my head. Against my better judgment, I answered. And just like that, he was back. We started talking more. First, it was friendly. He told me about his new school, about how things weren't the same there, about how he missed certain parts of his old life. And stupid me, I wanted to believe that maybe he missed me. But soon, the conversations started to shift. He'd bring up old memories. Remember when we used to stay up all night talking about the future? Remember our first kiss? Every word was like a hook pulling me back in. And then he said something that stopped me cold. "I never really loved her the way I loved you." It was like a punch to the chest. Those were the words I had been dying to hear when I was lying awake at night, wondering if I had ever mattered to him. He was giving me what I craved, validation. But at the same time, part of me knew it was dangerous. Because if he truly loved me, why did he betray me? Why did he leave me broken while he moved on to someone else within a week? I wanted to confront him with those questions. I wanted to scream at him, but instead, I stayed quiet. I listened. I let him talk. And that's when he dropped the real bomb. He admitted that the Discord kitten, the girl I caught him cheating with, wasn't the only one. I remember holding my phone, staring at the screen in disbelief. He said it so casually, like it was no big deal. He told me that while we were together, he had been talking to other girls online too, that he got bored easily, that he liked the attention. "Don't take it personally," he wrote. "It's just how I am. Don't take it personally." My entire world had crumbled because of him. My self-worth had been shredded to pieces. And he wanted me to believe it wasn't personal? But the more he talked, the clearer it became. Kai was addicted to the thrill of it all. The chase, the secrecy, the power of knowing someone wanted him. He wasn't capable of being loyal because he didn't see relationships the way I did. To him, it was a game. To me, it was love. And for the first time, I started to see him clearly, not as the boy I fell in love with, not as my first everything, but as someone deeply broken, someone who could never give me the kind of love I deserved. But even though I knew this, a part of me still ached. Because love doesn't just disappear when you realize the truth. It lingers, stubborn, clinging to the memories of who you thought they were. I wanted to cut him off completely, but I couldn't. It was like I was addicted too. Addicted to the hope that maybe he would change, that maybe he would finally wake up and see what he lost. And then, one night, he said something that shattered the last illusion I had left. He told me he was talking to someone new. Again. I stared at the message, my stomach dropping. Wait. I typed. You're already with someone? His reply was instant. Yeah, she's different. I think she might be the one. The words burned. The one. That was what he used to call me. That was what he told me when he promised me forever. And now, he was handing that same line to another girl like it meant nothing. I remember sitting there in my room, my phone glowing in the dark, tears streaming down my face. And for the first time, I wasn't crying because I wanted him back. I was crying because I finally understood. I never really had him in the first place. All those months, all those promises, all those late-night talks, they weren't real. At least not to him. I had been living in a story that only existed in my head. He had been playing a different game all along. And yet, as much as I wanted to slam the door shut forever, as much as I wanted to delete his number and erase him from my life, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the last time Kai would come back. Because boys like him, they never really go away. And I was right. The next time he reached out, it wasn't just to talk. It was to confess something darker. When Kai came back into my life again, it felt different this time. His tone wasn't casual, not the fake, "Hey, how are you?" texts he used to send when he was bored. No, this time his messages carried weight, almost desperation. First, I ignored him. I had been doing better, slowly building myself back up. But when someone you once loved so deeply suddenly says, "I need to tell you something," it's hard to resist. Against my better judgment, I opened the message. He started off with small talk, as if testing the waters. Then, out of nowhere, he wrote, "You don't really know everything I did while we were together." My chest tightened. I didn't even want to know, but I couldn't stop myself from asking, "What do you mean?" What he admitted next made my stomach twist. The Discord kitten wasn't just a one-time mistake. He told me there were multiple girls. Some he flirted with online. Some he met in person. And the worst part? He didn't even remember exactly how many. I sat there staring at my phone, my hands trembling. It felt like I was hearing about a stranger. Not the boy I thought I loved. Not the one who used to hold me and promise me I was his forever. He said he liked the thrill, the excitement of sneaking around. He confessed that every time we argued, instead of trying to fix things, he'd run to someone else. That was his escape, his coping mechanism. And then he added the line that broke me all over again. I couldn't help it. I wanted to scream, to throw my phone across the room. You couldn't help it? Cheating isn't an accident. It's a choice, a deliberate decision to betray someone who trusts you. But Kai didn't see it that way. To him, it was just who he was. He even admitted he'd been unfaithful in every relationship he'd ever had. I just hadn't known. In that moment, I felt this cold clarity wash over me. For so long, I had blamed myself. I thought maybe I wasn't enough. Maybe if I had been prettier, smarter, skinnier, funnier, maybe he wouldn't have cheated. But hearing him admit that this was a pattern, that it had nothing to do with me and everything to do with him, it shifted something inside me. It hurt like hell, but it also freed me. I realized I could have done everything perfectly, and he still would have cheated. Because Kai wasn't looking for love. He was looking for attention, validation, and control. And nothing I could have given him would have changed that. Still, as I read his messages, part of me couldn't stop shaking. Not just from anger or heartbreak, but from fear. Because Kai wasn't just confessing about the past. He was hinting at the present. He admitted that even while he was with his newest girlfriend, he was already bored. That he had started talking to someone else behind her back. History was repeating itself, right in front of my eyes. And then came the darkest part of his confession. He told me he liked the power of it. The power of knowing he could have multiple people wrapped around his finger at once. That he got a rush from making girls fight for his attention. Reading those words made me sick. This wasn't just immaturity. This wasn't just a teenage mistake. This was manipulation, cruelty. And for the first time, I asked myself, what if I had stayed with him longer? What if I hadn't checked his phone that morning? How much worse would it have gotten? I didn't respond for a long time. My phone kept buzzing with his texts. Are you mad? Say something. Don't ignore me. But I couldn't. I sat in silence, staring at the wall, realizing the truth. Kai never loved me. Not really. He loved the way I loved him. He loved the way I made him feel important, desired, wanted. And when that high started to fade, he went looking for someone else to give it to him again. That was his cycle, and I had been trapped in it. But here's the thing, I wasn't the only one. Because not long after his confession, I found out something that shook me to my core. Kai's new girlfriend, the one he swore was the one, reached out to me, and what she told me, it made everything crystal clear. When I saw the message from Kai's new girlfriend pop up on my phone, my stomach dropped. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Why would she be reaching out to me? But then I opened it, and my heart started racing. She wrote, "Hey, I don't know if you'll even respond, but I need to talk to you about Kai." Part of me wanted to ignore it. I didn't owe her anything. After everything Kai had done to me, the last thing I wanted was to get dragged back into his mess. But at the same time, I knew what it felt like to be in her shoes, to have that gnawing feeling that something wasn't right, to question your worth because of his behavior. So I replied, "Yeah, what's going on?" What she told me next made my blood run cold. She said Kai had started acting distant with her too. He was constantly picking fights, getting angry over nothing, ignoring her texts for hours and then suddenly blowing up her phone when it was convenient for him. She said she had this gut feeling that something was wrong. And then, one night, she checked his phone. And what she found looked painfully familiar. Screenshots, flirty messages, another girl, another Discord kitten. I sat there staring at her words, my chest tightening. It was like déjà vu, the same script, the same cycle, just with a new victim. She told me she felt stupid, that she should have known better, that she ignored the red flags. I wanted to tell her not to blame herself, but I knew how hard that was when you're in the middle of it. Because when Kai loves you, it feels real, feels intense. He makes you believe you're the only one, even while he's busy whispering the same words to someone else. I told her the truth, everything. About the Discord kitten he cheated on me with, about the confessions he had made later, about how this wasn't new. I could almost feel her heartbreak through the screen as she read my messages. And then she said something that stuck with me. He told me the same line he told you. That he broke up with his last girlfriend because when he saw me, he knew I was the one. That was it. The recycled script. The same words, the same trick over and over again. In that moment, all the doubts I had carried, all the nights I wondered if I wasn't enough, if I had been the problem, vanished. Because it was never about me. It was never about her. It was never about any of us. It was always about him. Kai wasn't capable of real love. He only knew how to chase the feeling of it. And once the shine wore off, once the high faded, he went looking for it somewhere else. That night, I blocked him on everything. For real this time. No more texts. No more late-night conversations. No more what-ifs. I finally understood that closure doesn't come from the person who hurt you. Closure comes from choosing yourself, from realizing you deserve better and walking away. And as for Kai, well, last I heard, he broke up with that girlfriend too. And, like clockwork, he got with another girl within a week. The cycle continues. But not with me. I won't lie, healing hasn't been easy. There are still nights where memories sneak in, where I think about who I thought he was, not who he really turned out to be. But I remind myself of something important. Your first love isn't supposed to destroy you. It's supposed to teach you. Kai taught me what red flags look like. He taught me what manipulation feels like. He taught me that if someone is quick to replace you, they never really valued you in the first place. And most importantly, he taught me that I will never, ever settle for someone who treats me like I'm disposable. So if you're listening to this and you've been through something similar, hear me when I say this. You are not the problem. Their choices are not a reflection of your worth. People like Kai will keep breaking hearts until they finally face themselves. Don't wait around for that. Walk away, heal, and find someone who sees you as irreplaceable. Because that's what real love is supposed to be. Wow, what a story. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to support the channel. It really helps a lot. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next video.